then one day I was like, it might be nice if I bought it to help myself more.
Okay, fair enough. How long have you been playing with the team?
The team has been together for 2 years now.
And have you been a part of that for all the 2 years? Or
Yes,
both the years?
I've been the team captain for these past 2 years.
Nice. Okay, awesome. How long have you been playing Overwatch before that, even?
Before that, probably only like 3 or 4 months. I started in Overwatch 2, like I played like very small amount of Overwatch 1, but I started when Overwatch 2 dropped, and then it was like August, or I guess not really August, like July of last year that the team like really started to get together
Sure,
and we
sure.
started practicing.
Was the team the reason that you started to pick it up, or was it just good timing?
Uh, the team made me take the game serious because I was playing it very casually beforehand.
Okay, and now you're taking it more seriously. So it
Yes.
was like basically just a timing of like you start to pick up Overwatch 2. Oh, there's the team, the collegiate,
Yeah.
and then going from there. It just coincidentally like you obviously encourage you to take it more seriously, and then you go from there. Okay. Now
Yeah.
I know on your form here that you're tank,
Yes.
but has what did that look like initially getting back into Overwatch 2, or even just casually? Like what heroes did you like playing, and was the tank more of a team
Well,
consequence or what?
now it is. So I actually, for the first like year and a half, like just like this season, and that's been like the past like 2 months, or not even a month and a half, I've been playing tank. I used to play DPS. I was DPS all the time. Hanzo is probably Hanzo and Tracer are probably my two there. But for tank, I really just play who the team needs me to.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. And obviously, having tank main being captain makes sense. But in terms of your personality, your preferences, was the captain kind of always like a natural step point for you?
Uh, I guess it wasn't at first. I also happened to most of everybody else on the team there was a freshman that joined. I was the sophomore, and I my coach worded it I was more emotionally mature than most of them, and that's how I got like picked
That
for it.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So
And then
you want
over time, I've sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
no
you,
no
but
finish your thought. Finish that.
over time, I've become more of like the leadership role to take charge when I need to. Like I IGL and stuff for the team as well.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, it makes sense given you're captain and then you
Yeah.
IGL and so on. So you want to be able to better IGL, be a less resource intensive tank. I like those terms. And I want to better understand when to take space and when to back out of fights. I also want to learn Winston. Okay, so what's stopping you from learning Winston?
Uh, right now, with Winston, we haven't been practicing a lot of dive because our communication has been very lopsided. It's sometimes our communication just doesn't follow up enough to run dive with the whole team. And then
And
I guess now it's more I've been playing a lot more Orisa because she's good right now.
okay, okay. So your hesitations with Winston are more of a team concern more so than an individual concern.
Yeah, because we wanted to. I guess my Winston like as like a whole like playstyle isn't like great, but I wanted to pick up Winston for dive specifically.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Okay. It might be useful if you're. I don't know how much. Well, I guess we'll get to this in a little bit, but like I don't know how much you're playing of ranked versus scrimmages, but it might be worth picking up Winston at least in ranked sooner rather than later. I don't know if you have or not, but you'd like to go into learning the character with kind of or learning the character within a team environment, already kind of knowing the mechanical side of it, right? Already knowing
mhm.
kind of what the character provides. Just kind of food for thought here. Now, that being said, you are playing a little bit of everything here, which
Yeah.
in terms of execution may not always be the best. Now, what rank is your team
Uh,
approximately?
we so our lowest right now for our varsity is Plat 5. Our highest
Yep.
is Diamond 3.
High five. Okay, so basically like low diamond, high plat team.
Yeah.
Um, I think for your identity as a team, and that's something that obviously your coach has control over, but kind of like my feedback on that would be, and for you personally, is you really want to find like what your identity is and play to your strengths, and really only adapt or change as necessity provides. So I think I work with a lot of other teams. I've worked with a lot of collegiate teams. I've worked with even high school teams frequently.
Mhm.
And one of the things that a lot of these teams fall into, even all the way up to like the grandmaster level, is they get sucked in by what they watch in OWCS.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll lose context about why those characters are being played. For example, the large part of the reason why Orisa was being played wasn't necessarily that the hero was overtuned by itself, but that the matchup was very good versus the other overtuned tank, which was Ramatra. So like within that context, that's part of the reason why a lot of people were playing her. And even at the professional level, they're very vulnerable to bias. For example, the whole Malgafara nonsense that we saw in Dallas, that was a very late development, and teams just kind of picked it up without really even being sure if it was the best. They just thought it was pretty good and just roll with it. And I've been in that environment for many years, top tier 2 Overwatch League, where players are very emotional, and if they feel like a scrim goes poorly or they feel like something is really good, they'll stick with it even if it doesn't make a lot of logical sense. I've seen many times in professional level where the meta is actually not the best composition, but just the one that the better team is being played and everyone's too scared to do anything else. That's not always the case, but my point being is for you, I encourage you specifically and for your team as the team captain to adjust as necessary, right? If some character is wildly broken, it's literally impossible not to play it. Okay, fine. There's obviously exceptions to that rule. Season 8, Malga being a good example, right?
Yeah.
But I want you guys to play to your strengths and play what you guys enjoy and be able to craft artistry out of what tools that you already have. And I think most successful teams do that. If you want to squeeze the most value that you can get, if you guys want to be scrimmaging at a master's level, which I have coached high plat, low diamond teams, which have scrimmed at a master's level because they never play the meta. They always play to their strengths. Doesn't mean that you play cheese comps. It just might mean that you're playing JQ Brawl. It might mean that you're playing Winston Dive or Diva Dive. It might be even playing that you're playing Zarya Reaper, right? Whatever characters that you enjoy playing the most are the ones that you're going to be playing the best. And then finding the nice thing about Overwatch 2 is that you could pretty much craft a cohesive composition out of almost any group of characters. Okay. I've worked with a lot of teams where I've worked with the top, a few years ago, the best collegiate team in the UK, in the entire UK, right, had a Symmetra one trick and a Roadhog one trick. And they were destroying like mid-tier 3 teams, like 4.5, 4.6 GM1 teams with that team. So just food for thought, right? So for you, I guess what I would encourage you to do is take that upon yourself. Obviously, you can't fully control what your team does, but have these conversations with your team, being the team captain, talk with your coach. And then for you personally, I want to see that reflected in your ranked play too. I want you to encourage on narrowing and specializing. And then if you get bored with the character, or let's say, hey, let's learn Winston Dive, guys. I think that would be good. I think that would be fun. Then play Winston, right? But I think what I'm hearing right now is I'm at least combining your form with what you're talking to me about, Orisa and Winston. You're spreading yourself a little too thin, and I don't know if you're going to be able to make progress with that. I'd like to see specialization that rotates. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
You don't have to one-trick Junkerqueen for the rest of your life. You just need to one-trick Junkerqueen this month. Or 2-trick Junkerqueen and Zarya this month. And then if you want to specialize in Orisa right now, it's fine with me. Go for it. Do it because you want to, not because you feel like you have to. Because trust me, you don't have to. You don't have to. That would be my general advice for team play for you guys and for you specifically.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. Because I think definitely our specialization right now, because like we've been like working on stuff, but our main stuff is really just a brawl with normally Zarya. Or yesterday, it was Orisa for how we do.
That's fine. Orisa, Zarya, Brawl, like that seems pretty good to me. Now that you guys are going to have some difficulties in more verticality maps for sure, but that seems pretty reasonable to me. Just again, make sure that you're playing Orisa because you want to, not because you feel like you absolutely have to. Now, let's keep going off of that. What rank are you at the moment? At the time of the format was Plat 4. Where are you now?
Plat 3. I just hit Plat 3 like 45 minutes ago.
Congrats.
I've been Plat 3 a couple times before.
Congrats. Okay, well done. So when you IGL, it's because of your emotional maturity, not necessarily your higher rank.
Yes. Because our highest rank is one of our supports. That's the Diamond 3. Okay. He will help me sometimes because he has a better view of the team fights. Sometimes when he's like behind, he has the whole picture better than I do at some points.
Sure. Okay, and then for you want to hit Grandmaster and win Nationals for your collegiate team, okay?
Yeah.
So you're playing a lot of Overwatch.
Yeah.
I'm seeing here. Now, how is that time broken up? First off, how often do you guys scrimmage?
Scrimmage at least once a week because
At
we
least
only
once a
have
week.
like
Okay.
the practices themselves are 2 times a week, but a lot of us play even together outside of practice all the time.
So you guys scrimmage and then you guys practice. Now, what is that, like
Yeah,
queuing rank together or what?
yeah. Practice will be queuing ranked together most of the
Okay,
time.
how does that work for you? Talk to me about this week or the week before. How did practice look like for you this week?
Uh, for me, this week I mean, it went well, to an extent. We were taking a lot of losses, but we were uh, refining the communication part. Like we saw major improvements from the entire team, and even like from myself of communicating, like saying like, "Hey, this is the plan that we need to take. I need people over here, and this group of people over here. This is the alt that we will reach out with first." It was good on the communication front, not necessarily the winning losing game front.
Okay, okay. Um, do you have one of those codes where you were IGLing well? You were
Uh,
planning well?
I think the Shambali game, the one that I sent you is going to be the best. It's from our competition last night. It was a loss, but I think we played well, and I think I IGL'd well that game.
I'm going to pause right now and let's get right into the gameplay review. We haven't finished your form quite yet. We'll have to go back, but I want to touch on this really quickly.
Okay.
Because I think you said some stuff about planning, which I want to explore a little bit more. So, waiting for this to work. Okay. I want you to, as best as you possibly can. First off, how recent was this?
This was last night.
Great. So you're going to be able to remember a large portion of what you were calling here. So
Okay.
do you remember where you were at this point in time, or what you were
Yes.
calling, or what you're planning? Okay. What was being
So
communicated?
before the game, we communicated that we want to split in 2-1-2 with our with me on cart, basically trying to bait them to drop off height. We have, I believe it's the May and Anna is going to be trying to walk up the stairs on the left side, as Juno and Sojourn are going to be taking the control on the right side.
Okay. Okay. And who called this? You did.
Me and then with combination of Rue, the Anna.
Did you call who would be splitting where?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that you guys normally do?
Yes.
Okay. And how does that work? Like, as in terms
Normal.
of function, does it function smoothly? Keep going.
Uh, for a while it like wasn't functioning super smooth, but lately it's gotten
Why?
a lot better.
Why?
I think some people get very tunnel visioned, even myself, to where I'll get like I'm really trying to like I almost think too far in the fight that I forget the start of it. Where I'm like, okay, this is what we want to do. Like maybe 10 seconds into the fight, like when the fight's actually breaking out, but not where we should be setting up beforehand.
Okay. How communicative are your teammates? You said your Anna was helping you call here. Is that
Uh,
generally or they're usually
yeah,
pretty communicative? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
My most communicative teammate is definitely Rue, the Ana, and then it probably goes. Really, the other three are kind of like they're quieter, but they do communicate.
What did they communicate usually?
Uh, Basically, if somebody's low and that they want us to look at them,
Okay.
Biscuit will call if I need to back up sometimes, or they'll say I'm going to ult here. They'll count us down normally for that one.
Do you call in
Uh,
ranked?
yes.
How does it usually go? Similar to what you're doing here?
Yes. It sometimes it's a bit worse because sometimes the mental of all the losses gets to us sometimes. So
Yeah.
it our comms normally fluctuate to the worst part during
Do you
those.
solo queue?
Yes, I solo queue a good
Do you
amount.
communicate when you solo queue as well?
I try to if people are in the
How does it
DC.
usually go?
Uh, it goes all right. It depends if people are in the call and like they want to listen, it'll work.
Yeah.
Normally, like
Yeah.
they'll follow behind and even if it was a bad plan, they'll follow through with it, and it's better to have at least a bad plan than no plan. I guess.
How long have you been training around as consistently as you have recently?
On the communication or just like playing a
Just
lot?
the quantity, yeah, the playing a lot.
Normally, like in season, like when college going on, the summer is normally when I take a break. I didn't play much. Like I guess we tried like the Face It League.
Yeah.
We ended up going against a lot of higher level people then, so we kind of got rolled, and we didn't play as much because we didn't have like the mandated practices and stuff. But like during the weeks, I play a pretty good amount.
Okay, and how long have you been platinum?
Uh, like all year. I probably hit
Okay.
platinum probably December of last year.
Okay,
In
okay.
DPS first. Tank, it was I hit it last season.
Got it. Okay. Let's keep going here.
We see them drop, and I'm gonna call. I want us to take high ground, so I'm waiting them. I look for my 2 teammates, and I say, "Let's take height." After we see the ante. Then I know we get a call that they're gonna meet us up here. And then I believe I turn around and I push this brig into the team.
So I'm just watching for a second here.
And then I know I call that I drop. I'm just trying to give you as much context as I can. And then I know we're calling the Orisa. I know I say I'm gonna try to spin them back into us, but then they just walk into the team.
Okay. Let's keep going a little bit here. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna watch one more fight before I say anything.
I know we called that we want May to try to wall high ground once they can get up there. I don't believe they're with us yet.
Yeah.
And I know I call for the dynamite so don't walk into it. Then I get walled. I don't think there was any specific positioning calls. I know I got the nano call, and we talked about a lot of combo between the nano and then this.
Yeah.
This one I say, Marcus, I'm coming with you. Marcus is the Pharah.
Yep. All right, give me one more. Keep narrating.
And then we called push up here. I know I see Juno. We end up getting the kill here.
Nice.
And then Rue will double up and say, let's stay. And then I believe I might int here because I know I overheated my gun a lot this game. That's a big thing. I walk past the shield. I'm called for the shield. We hear the bot behind. I try to push him back in my team. And then, yeah, I just back up into everybody and die.
Okay. So I love the narration. I mean, I think this has been very helpful for me to kind of see things out, and I want to talk more about your IGL, but I have some tough news first. Mechanically, this is a mess. And then not just in terms of mechanics, but in terms of how you're using your CDs and how you're playing the character. It's a total mess. Yeah. And this is kind of my concern with you. How you're communicating and what you're communicating, down to the splits, the rotations, the game plan, the planning, it's actually pretty good. Like, you've done a really good job of that. You should feel amazing about that. I think you're a very valuable asset to your team. We'll talk about one of the things that you need to be careful of. But the problem here is that you're just not playing Overwatch very well. And this is why you're Plat 3 and have been for a long time. Now, when you're playing Overwatch, there's 2 skills that you have to execute on a team play. You have to execute on the right plan, and then you have to actually play the character correctly.
Okay.
And where we're at right now is, and this is why I was grilling you about how you communicate, what your team communicates, how practice looks, how scrimmages look, and then how solo queue looks. I'm not seeing enough time to where you just play the character and get good at the character. I think a lot of emphasis is on, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, a lot of emphasis is on coming up with the correct plan, or coming up with a plan, communicating and synchronizing, and then executing that plan, whether you're in solo queue or not. And then obviously whether your teammates follow up off of that or not. What I'm encouraging you to do is, I'm not telling you that, oh, solo queue ranked, it's pointless to plan, you should just focus on yourself. It's still valuable to plan. It really is. But it's only valuable to plan if your focus is on winning the game, or if your focus is on getting better at planning. You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For you, that doesn't seem like a proportional weak point for you. Like the 2-1-2 split here is very clever. Forcing the Orisa to drop and then rotating top is very clever. And then calling about how you're going to wall top and then combo your ultimates here is very clever. Like, again, we can give you some feedback on things that you can do better with that, right? Because you can always do a little bit better with your strategy. But I think it's very good. But the problem here is that you're not being a low resource tank. You're not hitting your javelins. You're not cycling your cooldowns properly. You're not using cover, and you're not even necessarily shooting the right targets. So the bad news is that you are being carried by your communication here.
Okay.
The good news is that you're being carried by your communication.
Yeah.
Like you really are communicating really well. Now, before we get into the gameplay side of things, let me give you a little bit of advice because I've worked with a lot of players like you who are really smart and good leaders. You're very valuable, but you need to make sure 2 things. Number 1, that you are not the only person planning, or the vast majority of planning, because it's important to incorporate Asuka, Farah, Biscuit in the communicational process because they will see things that you don't. They will have ideas that you don't. And in addition to that, they need to be allowed space to improve their own communication without you filling up the comps all the time.
Okay.
And this is a conversation that you need to have with them. Right now, I don't want you calling. I see nothing here outside of maybe we could rotate top. This needs to be a call. Well, who could be calling right now? You tell me. You use your big brain. Who could be calling right now, and what would they be calling?
Farah and Biscuit could be calling. They have 3
Yes.
pushing them.
Yes. Calling 3 push, rotate elsewhere. And that would be your responsibility to follow the call in terms of either pushing in them in the back. Who else could be calling here? What could Asuka or Rue be doing or calling?
Asuka could have a plan to possibly try to wall off or say that they want to
Yes.
rotate height now.
Yes.
Of me.
Honestly, Asuka could rotate height by themselves. Right? Like you may just be like, hey, I'm slow, I'm flanking, right? Or Asuka could be like, hey, let's just wall off here and push here, right? Like whether it's the individual plans or the team plans, like they could be seeing things that you don't see here and then making calls that you don't. So this is going to be a very challenging thing for you. Maybe the most challenging thing that we talk about today is allowing more space for your teammates to open up and provide plans. And the problem is you're not going to, I'm going to tell you this, and you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to create more space. And then you're going to get into scrimmage, and then these guys are not going to step up. You're going to get frustrated, then you're going to start to micromanage again.
Okay.
You need to have this conversation with them, and then you need to be patient enough to just let some dead comm space fill up.
Okay.
The good news is that while that dead comm space is being, let's just say that while the dead comm space is, you could be working on something else. And this is the second thing. When you're not hard planning, you need to be focusing on doing your thing as Orisa and doing it correctly. Let me break down all the individual errors. I'm going to overwhelm you a little bit here, but this is just to prove a point of what you could be practicing, okay? First things first, with the 2-1-2 split, you're not receiving healing. So you should be peaking basically as little as possible right now. You're doing damage. This is not being a low resource tank because your Ana and Mei supposedly are rotating left here. Okay? So you need to be avoiding taking damage right now. That's the first mistake. Second mistake here is right here. That's an opportunity for you to be javelining and pressuring out this Ashe and or avoiding her spam. You seem kind of oblivious of where she is and not paying attention to the damage that you're taking or the opportunities that you have with Javelin right now. You're not going to kill her, but you're going to force her out. Missed opportunity. And then in general, you're missing Javelin opportunities repeatedly. This is an Orisa that's not fortified. Use the Javelin. If you put her back into the wall, you're not going to kill her, but you will force gold. Javelin is not a cooldown that you should be saving, almost without exception. If there's an opportunity to get somebody into a wall, I don't care who it is, you need to use it unless you're trying to cancel an ultimate. That's without exception. You will win it's the same thing with Doomfist Punch. Use the punch now to get an HP advantage right now. Her back to the wall, yours is not, use it. So no Javelin there. Javelin, but you Javelin once she's already fortified, so it's a total waste now, where instead you could have been Javelin, again, the Ashe or the Juno here. You then turn to the Ashe, but it's too late at that point. You're calling to rotate. This is fine. Your first opener here should be to either Javelin this Ashe, or Javelin this Juno, or Javelin this Orisa or Brig, and yet you still haven't Javelined yet. You're still taking too much damage by playing too far at the open here. You fortify, but you fortify before you actually commit on the push, which loses you half a second of value. So here, your probably best bet would have been to Javelin spin into backline, and then Javelin to finish the kill, and then fortify out, because you need the speed of Javelin spin to close the distance on these squishies right here. You see this? This is a big opportunity to assassinate backline that you miss because you fortified, which means now you're slow, which then also means that your invulnerability cooldown is being put on cooldown before you actually need it. Javelin misses. It happens. At least you tried. This is actually fine. But then you need to be really careful about pushing here because this is how you get traded. You're at half HP, no fortify, no spin, one fan the hammer, and you're dead here. Nice javelin. Good shots. Good rotation there. That's a good javelin try. You missed it, but that's okay. That's obviously a mechanical thing, but I'm less concerned about the mechanics and more about you actually using your CDs correctly. Good target priority here. You let your gun overheat. You already brought that up as being an issue previously. And then you fortify here for goodness knows why. You're like, oh, I didn't need to use it otherwise, but you never know, right? This is in 30 seconds of gameplay, right? Yeah. You just aren't that good of an Orisa, okay? Now, you tell me, what's your comfort level with Orisa versus your strongest tank? What's your strongest tank mechanically?
Right now, it's probably Zarya.
Okay, Zarya. Zarya, probably we don't see as many mistakes as this. Probably. At least proportionate, right? But to me, that emphasizes the point even more so that you need to be taking the foot off the gas in terms of planning for you selfishly, letting more democratic communication, and you, during that dead space, devote more brain power to how am I using my javelin? How am I using my cover? How am I cycling my CDs? Okay? Because if you're communicating like this at all times, you're doing the equivalent of playing in a Game 7 finals in the NBA every single day and never going and practicing your dribbling form and never practicing free throws or never practicing your three-pointers or never lifting weights to become stronger or sprinting to become faster or jump training to become... You're never training. You're always performing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, you can get better at performing by performing. There's some teams that I've worked with that needed to get better performing. They're chokers. They didn't plan. They didn't... That's not you. That's not you. Because does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want you to do, at least in solo queue ranked, is to work on developing some of these things, which we will give you a full list of things, a laundry list of things that you can work on and how to work at them, okay? But then also in your scrimmages and also in your practice, I want you to find times for you to be able to devote to working on your mechanics and communicate with your team that they should devote time to work on their planning side of things. Now, I'm going to simplify things for you so that you know exactly what to ask for, okay? This is what I want you to ask for from your teammates. Two things. They should call what position they want to take, and they should call what they want to do with their ultimate. And that's all they need to do.
Okay.
So when you're asking them to communicate more, don't say that. Say, can you call where you want to position or how you want to angle or flank, instead of me telling you where you need to go. And then can you call when and where you want to use your ultimate instead of me doing the same thing for you?
Okay.
And then while you're practicing your javelin spins, they could practice their angles, right? They need to learn, because at the level of Overwatch, the best teams do not have time to micromanage. I do not know a single successful team that has a player micromanaging other teams' positions. There are good teams that do that, but there are teams that are always underperforming. And at the highest level, that never happens. Because you can't have stupid, quiet players at the highest level. You might have quiet players, but they know how to position. You might have stupid players, but they at least yap about where they're going, right? So that at least people can try to follow up, right? And I've worked with both. I won't say who. But that has to be the priority. You can't have stupid and quiet. And by stupid, I mean uneducated, inexperienced at communicating their positions. Okay. Does all that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions about that?
No, I do not think I do.
Okay. Now, this is going to be hard for you to practice. It's going to be breaking a habit for you. But I want solo queue rank to be spent certainly practicing what you need to be doing. Now, if you want to have some solo queue rank games where you hard call, I think it'd be good. What is unique about solo queue ranked planning that might be a fun opportunity as opposed to playing with your teammates? What's different about ranked?
Not everybody could be listening.
Not everybody could be listening, but that's just an unnecessary challenge, right? So that's not good practice. Think about it. What's good practice about ranked? Look at the situation right now. Look at their comp and look at your composition. Do you see what this is? This is sweat. I got Orisa, May, Mirror. We've got Ana and June. We got Junos on both sides and a hit scan. I mean, do you think this is going to be like the average ranked composition, right?
No, there's going to be different types of comps.
Right. Now, is this ranked right here? Or is this a scrim?
This
is
no,
a
this is
match.
like competition.
Okay,
Like,
this is an actual match. Okay, so this is an
yeah.
actual match. But if you were like, let's say, to stack with your friends or stack with your teammates, excuse me, this would probably also happen a lot, right? Where people are sweating with compositions and ranked as well,
Yeah.
right? But when you're solo queuing, you're not going to get this. You're going to get a Junkrat OTP and a Mercy OTP, right? So think of that from a planning standpoint. How does that affect how you plan? What kind of experience can you get out of that?
I mean, just learning how to plan with different players.
Exactly.
Like different types of players.
Exactly.
Like I don't know how they play, but I can think
Right.
about how I would want a Mercy to play there.
Right, right. It stresses your ability to adapt and learn, which is a very valuable thing because I'm sure you've had some matches where you're like, I don't know how to play versus that. Like, I've never seen that before, or I don't know how to play versus this character, and it's a very good muscle. So if you want to practice planning, doing so occasionally in solo queue ranked with weird comps is totally fine. But remember, that's the purpose of doing it in ranked. It's to practice. I want you to stop. I'm going to shift your mindset away from performing outside of matches and more on practice, whether it's individual development of your communication or individual development of your gameplay.
Okay.
All right. Now, you might be saying, I do try to work on my planning, but I still think that your planning is such a strong muscle right now at the expense of your gameplay. Okay. So from here, let's coach your gameplay. And now, you may not know a lot about Orisa, but let's see if we can construct some knowledge. All right? I bet you could coach yourself from here on out. Let's look at this next fight, and I want you to say pause and provide feedback whenever you see anything, okay? We'll go a little bit slower here. We'll go like 0.5 here.
We could definitely pause here. As soon as I see this Orisa, I think I can rotate to the archway that's right to my right to play that cover instead, to give myself a longer poke angle to try to bait out CDs instead of kind of sitting in the open against an Ashe, Mei, and
yes. So you're
Orisa.
communicating your positioning here instead of micromanaging your teammates. And do you see the consequence of you not thinking about your positioning right now? Look at your HP, right? Now, I'm going to be very clear, too. Part of the reason why this angle feels so bad is how you're peaking it. Because you're talking right now. I can hear you calling, right? And while you're calling, your brain is not thinking about your cover usage at all. Your brain is not thinking about your angle, and then look at your HP.
Yeah, I'm watching myself. I mean, I'm almost out of armor already, and the fight's barely
This is
started.
normal, by the way. Most players that I've worked with that are really hard callers, really hard planners, are generally very undisciplined with their gameplay, which is ironic, but that's how it goes, because you don't have enough brain power to be able to devote to two. So you need to practice doing these things automatically so that when you are hard calling, you position much better without thinking about it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But you need to devote some brain power to this so it becomes more natural. Because this is a tragedy. This is the opposite of a low resource tank. And that's something that I noticed from watching your Juno and Ana without really watching them, is that they are basically never allowed to take an angle or take space because you're almost always 1 HP, because you're almost always playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, you coach here. We'll speed it up till the cart comes a little bit.
I think I definitely, maybe even instead of pushing the Orisa away, I could have taken more of a angle towards the Kiri and Mei here. So I also needed to pause instead of pushing in, because I javelined in with already half HP. I'm already going in at the disadvantage.
Yes, and I would go as far to say that javelin spinning in here makes no sense, because look at where your backline is. How long do you need to wait before you javelin spin in now? Give me an estimated time.
Probably at least 2 to 3 seconds.
Agreed. So the purpose of the javelin spin is to close distance and provide more threat onto backline. It's totally fine. We don't even need to talk about when it's bad or when it's good. It's just, if you want to do it, go for it. But if you're going to do it, you need to wait for backline to have an LOS first. So let's see if your estimation is correct. So 216 at top, 5, 4, now javelin spin in. Look at where your backline is. Now, obviously, the Mei wall happens, but that would not have happened, right? That would have been a much, much better time for you to javelin spin. So your estimation was perfect.
It was my gameplay of pushing forward that allowed the Mei wall to happen.
Exactly. But obviously, like you said, better HP management and better timing of that push would have been very good. And that would have saved you probably your fortify.
We can pause here. I think I should have taken an angle before the nano, at least on the right. I'm kind of only using cart as cover, but the right has a lot more cover to either pressure the back line or even try to get a javelin. Here? Like, yeah, right around the health pack. Yeah. Where I can jiggle that corner instead of...
Okay. Okay. Now
sitting
you are
right
going to
in front of
open
the
yourself
Orisa.
up to Ash. You see this?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not
Maybe
going to lie to you. Go ahead.
Maybe I'm farther down by the archway as I was talking
Maybe.
earlier, or
Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking like maybe inside of the building as well, but that also
You
opens
could.
up to Ash.
Yeah, yeah. Let me give you a little bit of some advice. If there isn't a very comfortable angle for you to play and or you don't have time to, I think your initial archway angle was a good idea, but it's too late for that. Win the frontline trade. Win the frontline trade. When you're not sure, win the frontline trade. You can absolutely win the frontline trade right here. What should you do right now?
Just beam down the Orisa.
Beam down the Orisa and javelin. She's not fortified. Her back's on the wall. Use it. Win the HP trade right now. Then when you win the frontline trade, you give yourself space with which to take an angle. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. That's why a lot of high level Overwatch often looks more frontline and brawlers, because they fight for the positive trade so that then they can take space. So here, you notice again that you javelin too late and then throw the javelin once she's already started the javelin spin, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a mess. Okay, let's keep going here.
I could have javelin spin right here to get closer faster.
Yes, too slow in the javelin spin. Why is that a problem?
Because they have time to back away.
And not only that, look at your HP.
I'm half again.
You take about 100 damage unnecessary. Like, obviously, you're going to be low here regardless, but you didn't need to be 370. You could have been 470 if you javelin spin sooner. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. All good, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Any questions so far?
No.
I want to look at a little bit more, and then I want to pivot to new characters. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. You saw this already? You see it?
Yeah, my javelin.
Yeah, I mean, look at how far. Well, look at how far you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at where. Like, I mean, just for context, I mean, look at this. This is insanity in terms of your HP preservation. You're peaking 3-4 people by yourself.
Yeah, I should have waited.
Now the question is why are you doing this? You're not dumb, right? You're very intelligent. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing this though?
I believe I wanted to pressure the team so they didn't have time to take space, so we could push cart.
Right. The problem is that this is going to force your CDs and probably not force theirs. If you're going to get early pressure here, how does it have to happen?
I think after my Juno pick, I should have backed up and tried to bait CDs by playing poke.
Playing the corner, right? Like playing, like the big thing that we're seeing here is like who can your team see versus who can their team see.
They have 3 people looking at us, but my team can only see me.
That's it. And so who's going to win this HP trade every single time?
They will. Or they'll have more, yeah.
They'll have more. Now, you're doing a fine job in terms of hitting some shots here, which is nice. I don't even know how you forced Ice Block. I think your Sojourn helped you, but you really, this is the same problem that we saw here. Do you remember this when you were like, oh, I should have rotated instead? You shouldn't have rotated here. But the same thing happened here where you took so much damage because you didn't know where your backline was.
Okay.
So you're basically taking pre-fight engagements that are forcing either A, your cooldowns, or B, your support's babysitting 24/7 just to keep you alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're still like this is still too early. Like I don't know why your Juno's speed ringed here. Maybe because she thought she was trying to get you out, but like this is a mess. This is a mess. Like you're taking so much. You could be taking even more damage here.
Mm-hmm. I should have played. Before this, I should have played the other corner to our left, right next to the right where card is now.
Yeah, just sit here. Just sit here and shoot. Make them walk into you. Play your effective range. Play around where your backline can see.
Instead, I'm sitting quite literally in the middle, and that's why.
In the middle of the open, right. And then in terms of micro here, Javelin into Sigma instead of backline, who was right in front of your face. Javelin spin was fine, but then honestly, like having the Javelin spinning and then fortify just means that you don't know the Sigma matchup, right? You need to fortify first and put pressure on him because he's going to have his accretion. So you basically 2 for 1. Now, to be fair, they did pop 3 ults. You guys only popped 1. So it's probably not a fight you're going to win either way. But yeah. Okay, let's watch one more fight. That work for you?
Yeah.
Fight plan here is what?
For us to walk up the backside. What I should have done is, or what I would have, I guess, in past this, I would have hoped that Pharah and Juno want to take an off angle up top. I know we talked about this after the game, but we don't have anyone pressure the high ground. I called for us to walk up the backside.
Again, that's a very clever play. I think putting your Sojourn Juno, be able to pressure this out, force her in here, and then set up your Sojourn ult from here while you guys apply pressure from here. Seems pretty reasonable. Yeah. Now let's focus on your micro.
Once again, I'm sitting in the middle instead of jiggling the corner. Yeah,
jiggle the corner, right? Put a little pressure, find an opportunity to rotate in, but jiggle the corner.
I think we called that our first call that we called. I wanted us to break shield.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. You see some of the mechanical stuff, right? Javelin spin.
I speared it into a shield.
And then javelin spin. Why? You know why? Like if you're gonna put pressure here, or just back off and whatever. Like javelin spin is either used to basically absorb attention or to push pressure, right? I don't know what you get out of this. You're javelin spinning somebody who's not putting out any damage and then getting shot in the side.
Then I look for the cancel. I
mean, it's worth a shot, right? It was a good try. It was awfully close.
And then I walked past my entire team and pressured here. And then I would have died unless I would have gotten the nano. That was not a good push by me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I look at this as this fight's already lost, or feels pretty much lost. So, like, if you're gonna go, you had fortify, you go for a backline trade. It's honestly fine. The problem is you keep letting your gun overheat. And then from you here as well, you're nanoed here.
Yes.
Why fortify, right?
Yeah.
Preserve that pressure. Keep the nano until the nano's expired, or you're dropping HP. Then either decide if you want to spin in, or need to fortify to apply continuous pressure. I don't know. But basically, you've stacked your cooldowns instead of layering them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then I waited for Mei there.
I mean, it's not a bad decision. It's not a bad decision here.
I've sat in the middle instead of jiggling the corner again, next to cart. I've quite literally just in between two pieces of cover without using either of them.
And then again with the javelin spin, right? There's not really any reason to use this. You're not really holding open space. The cart's moving for free anyway. Use this javelin spin a few seconds later, right? Off of some sort of movement or commitment. Fortify is fine. Good try with the javelin.
And I overheated trying to kill for the Juno.
Yeah. And that's basically it. Okay, so let's set some notes for you. Give me some micro. Not even micro. Just how do you play Orisa? What needs to be done better with the Orisa here?
I need to, as you said, layer my cooldowns more. Like get more of a cycle going instead of just spamming all three of them. In general, I need to use cover more instead of sitting in the center. I need to play my effective range because I have no damage drop off by playing corners and trying to poke out CDs more than just shooting, and not, of course, letting my gun overheat. I need to burst fire more than hold down the button. That's really all I can think of right now.
I won't even say layering your cooldowns because it's way too vague. I would say put some deliberate thought into how you're using your javelin spin.
Okay.
I think fortify most of the time was relatively okay. A couple times it was kind of messy, but like be deliberate and thoughtful about how you're using your javelin spin. Either standing in the open. I need to stand in the open right now, so I'm going to use my javelin spin to hold this space. I'm going to disengage, or I'm going to push, right? In action, or just generally just kind of bumbling around, it's not worth your cooldown. It's a very important cooldown. Okay, let's move on to another character here. Is Liu Jing a different character, or is it more Orisa?
I think it's quite literally all Orisa, but I know I have one that I play a different character.
Excellent.
I have a JQ game.
Okay.
From the same night. This one was also a loss, and it wasn't as much of a close game. Here.
Sure.
It's going to be a Runasapi game.
Perfect. Now, I want to touch on one thing while we're between VODs here. You said, what's holding you back? You said partly understanding, which is something that I'm sure as somebody who plans a lot, you're going to think a lot about, like, what do I need to be doing better in these matchups, and how do I plan better, and all that kind of stuff. We talked a little bit about that. But you also said mentality. What about your mentality you feel is holding you back?
I feel like it's kind of like the ego sometimes of me thinking I can take this and just win, and then I won't play. Like doing that will then cause me to not play correctly. Like I'll get too sucked in on thinking I can win this. I'm not possibly using cover when I need to during the fight. That would better help me to maybe I can win the fight, but I can win it cleaner if I did things differently. If I wasn't so stuck on wanting the win, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. So you're basically treating everything again like the Game 7 finals at the expense of your own gameplay kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then sometimes I can get sucked into the losses, though, albeit I think between the time I've written the forum, I've gotten a lot better at like looking at losses
Right.
of this is just a learning time. This isn't like I lost, it's like the end of the world.
Well, again, that kind of goes directly into the previous point, right? Like I think I remember when I used to shot call in ranked, when I shot called the most in rank was when I was the lowest rank. I remember when I was first getting into Overwatch competitive, and I was in silver. I took every game very seriously, and I hard called, hard commed, and I probably did a pretty good job, all things considered, keeping people coordinated. But that meant that I took a lot of personal responsibility with the result of the match, which meant I took losses very hard. That's probably a similar situation with you. If you're communicating like Game 7 finals here, and then you get nothing out of it, well, frick me, man.
Yeah, I know. I definitely used to have a big issue when we were first working on communicating and the whole shot calling thing. If I like people like wouldn't listen to some calls, and then that
Very
I would
distressing.
I would get very stressed and just very annoyed. And sometimes like in practice, I would just mute my mic.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, 100%.
I'm like, I'm done.
100%. Now I want you to do the exact same thing, but positively. Mute your mic, focus on your gameplay.
Yeah.
It's not that calling is bad. It's also not that practicing calling is bad, but remember, it needs to be practicing calling, basically. And then when you get into matches, let it loose, essentially. But in ranked, like if you're calling, it's because you want to practice your communication. It's not because you're trying to win the game.
Okay.
If I had a dime for every like r/Overwatch University post that said about like, man, so many games would be win if people communicated. Yeah, but if everybody's communicating, then everybody's not everybody's winning, right? Like so, like how much? It's basically like I was talking about this the other day with a player who's talking about like how like you could be really PMA, really positive, and be like an armchair psychologist and win a lot of games, but that's only going to win you a couple. It's only going to basically boost you by like half a rank.
Okay.
A Plat Mercy isn't going to climb to Masters because she's a really good communicator. It's not happening. You might climb to Diamond, right? So for you, your aspirations are Grandmaster. So we need to at least get you to be a Masters level player before your communication carries you, right? And if you're not a Masters level player, ironically, you're not going to get to a Masters level mechanics with how you're practicing right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And notice I said mechanics, not positioning and cooldowns. Because if you want to practice your mechanics, legitimately want to practice your Orisa and Zarya aim, you need to shut your mouth. And you need to just play the game. You just play the game. Focus on your aim, focus on my alt fire, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Any questions before we keep going with this?
No, I was going to say, like, this game, it's going to be, I believe it's Zarya for first fight, and then I swap into JQ against the Ram.
Okay, do you want to look at the JQ then?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Let's take a look here.
I know, I believe a big issue that I'll have, I believe I'll mismanage Shout a lot this game.
Okay. We'll take a look here. Now, you were communicating this because this is team. So we're going to treat this as if this was ranked and focus on your micro. Not because planning is bad here or not useful. It's extremely useful, but just for the sake of pointing out when you are calling what stuff generally gets sloppy. So I like the angle here. Yeah, there's just no pressure on you whatsoever. There's no need. You. Yeah. You could, again, Shout is a lot like Javelin Spin. You can get out and get in, or you could just simply hold space and live a 1v1. So it's one of those cooldowns that you don't really need to overthink too much, but this provides no value. Like you actually, your HP decays.
Yeah.
That should tell you that there wasn't a lot of value out of what you just did. I mean, obviously, probably not necessary. Like, probably better to actually hit the Carnage there.
Yeah. I thought I did hit the Carnage. I just thought he got the end of it.
Yeah, you might have.
Okay.
You might have. Yeah. Big thing here is also don't get frozen forehead.
Yeah.
It just seems like some of these mistakes are like not even necessarily like, a mechanical misunderstanding. You just stood and mailed because it felt like your mouth was moving instead of your brain.
space of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure on the left.
Sure.
Didn't need.
Well, sure. But does the speed provide value right now? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could say, oh, I don't want to shout because they're going to pop their Juno and I want to get out. I don't care. Does this shout have logic and reasoning behind it? The answer is yes, so it's good.
Okay.
We're not aiming for, top OWCS level planning and cooldown management here. It just needs to be better than what we've seen so far. You need to freaking hit your Gracie.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with your Javelin. If you don't hit your Javelin, you lose value. You lose value, you lose fights. I thought about it there too. I thought about it. You see that and you're like, this fight was okay. Mechanics needed to be better, both with your shots and with your Gracies. That's why you lose.
Okay.
Ult trade was totally reasonable. Ooh.
Yeah, we'd swap the Lucio to get back fast.
Yeah.
I should have turned around and just looked at the Mei. Mei was an ice block. She had no reason to get out.
So basically, you're fixating on the tank matchup because the tank matchup is why you swapped the JQ.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine to focus the tank matchup like where you were here because that was the only thing that you could reach. But then as these fights evolve and or you find different angles, you need to find ways to turn your attention away from Ramattra.
Yes.
Great recognition from you. Okay, let's keep going.
Better walk.
This is another one of those situations where I just think don't use Carnage. Use it to help win a frontline trade, but you don't need it right now. The pressure from this isn't enough. So what would you do with Carnage instead here?
I would try to look for it to get it on Brig, because I believe she drops instead of just smacking the tank with it.
Yeah. The real answer is I don't know. Just wait and see. You'll find something.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know this fight's messy. You know you'll find an opportunity, so don't necessarily use it.
Oh, I'm okay. No, I die here. I thought it was about it. I have a really bad ult on one of these.
Okay. I'm ready for it.
I think it's going to be the fight after this one.
This is another one of those opportunities, right? What do you see here?
3, and then a shield, and I know one person sectioned off on the left.
Can I offer you some advice here?
Yeah.
I understand why you don't push in here, but you certainly should Gracie here.
Okay.
Find some opportunities when the map or the angle allows it, where you can fish for a little cooldown here, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get ice block here,
She can't survive. She only has wall to get out.
Even if she lands a wall, if you get ice block here, you're just gonna ult right out this door frame the second she walls, and their entire team is dead.
Okay, yeah.
So my point being is that I don't expect you to think that far in advance. You don't need to think that far in advance. But what you do need to be looking for is opportunities to fish on angles with Gracie. Kind of what you're doing here, but doing it on somebody that's a little bit closer. That's the only difference here.
Going for the easier shot.
Going for the easier angle. Right, exactly. It would be the same thing if the Sojourn was here. I would definitely want you to fish for a Gracie here. Right? This is just too far. Mm-hmm. And they're there too. That's the thing, is you even ping it. They're in there. I mean, maybe it's worth a shot. Like, maybe not even Gracie. Just pop a couple of shots in here, Like, come on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see the 4 pop the ult.
Yeah, I think this is fine. Usually we don't like just immediately pressing Q, but if you see them line up like that, you might as well, right? Mm-hmm. Sure. Honestly, this is where you could just stay on Ram because you can't quite reach the Sojourn, right? So remember that your target priority is always a consequence of convenience. I thought that was going to hit for sure.
Yeah, I did too in game.
Yeah. See, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. This is a consequence of you setting up on a bit of an angle, finding a cheeky little sightline here. You don't need to push this. You probably won't push this, but this is going to really cause some problems if you hit this Gracie. You see it? The shout is really bad from you. You didn't need to push. However, look at the response. Holy crap, right? Like,
you've just 4 to stare at me.
You got 4 to stare at you. You force shift. You force speed ring. You've completely killed the push. In fact, they're not going to even meet you guys in the robot anymore. And now Juno's in a horrific angle to put out pressure. So if you don't use shout here because you're like, oh, I don't want to push that. Like if because you're just standing on a corner, you guys are going to put yourself in an amazing position to win this fight, because look at their initial positions here, right?
And then
look at how that
force them all
migrates.
back down the map.
They force them all back down the tunnel just from using a single Gracie. That Carnage is fine because he's the only thing you can reach right now. I just freaking wish you had shout. That's all.
Yeah, shout would have been there.
And that's it. Like, you needed shout. You desperately needed shout. I will also say, from your team's perspective, they need to freaking press Q here. I don't know what they're waiting on. So from your planning standpoint, this is where you need your team to step up and press the button. Like, I don't know what the frick Biscuit's doing right now, but press the Q. Press the Q. Press the button, and don't isolate yourself. And then honestly, same thing with your soldier. I mean, come on. Like, what more of a situation do you want Tactical Visor, right? You're like, oh, I can't see anybody. Yes, you can. And if they all hide from you, you're going to win the fight, right? Like, your team just needed to press Q here, whether it was Sojourn, Visor, or Juno, and they didn't. So if you want, Coach Spilo's personal free coaching seminar, press Q, you morons, once the fight starts. Just
I think a problem that we have is that they wait for me to tell them to ult.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing that. And you see how that sucks for you. Because sometimes your only focus is your mechanics and staying alive. You don't have time to call that. You see what kind of environment that you've created?
I've seen where they rely on me for everything.
Yes,
and
they
it
rely
doesn't
on you.
allow me to work on anything.
Exactly.
I know that's like some things where I've mentioned to my coach before. I'm like, sometimes it's like, I wish I didn't have to tell you to play the game. Like, you just have to play the game.
Yeah. Good. Excellent recognition from you. Because you're right.
I didn't need shout there.
That's not really your fault in terms of what's happening up there, but obviously would like to have shout now. So that you could make... I mean, she walks into you, but like, it would be nice to have shout to guarantee a connection with this JQ. Or with this Brigitte, excuse me.
I could have played cover better there.
Yeah, I think you could have played cover better here, maybe. I think you're cooked either way, I'm not going to lie with you. And you did get some nice pressure out in the front line here. You hit some nice shots, and so I think you guys should be okay. Yeah, the big thing was the shot there. Nice, good stuff.
Another big thing I have is I'm always jumping. Always jumping.
How do you fix that?
I can unbind jump, to be honest.
No. That's such a lazy fix, right? No offense.
Just to cognitively think about not to jump.
Right. This is my no jump practice ground. Legitimately, your entire goal is just to not jump. It's worth your time. Come on, like you're fine tuning an Overwatch machine. You have all the time in the world to devote to details. Right? This is not Game 7 the finals. You don't need to worry about, like, we could have won that game if I wasn't focused on not jumping. Who gives a crap, Nobody cares.
I think the ult's coming.
You're killing me. You're killing me with these shouts. You're killing me. I'm going to call the cops. This is this is very similar to your javelin spins. So how would you approach this fight, right? Because this sucks. Like, this is just, like, miserable. Okay, so what do you do?
I think instead of... obviously I shouldn't have shouted here. I think I possibly could have taken almost the same angle that I took last time. Up the jump pad. The pressure here to see the supports of just the tank.
If you're going to do if it's an awkward push, at least try to get to backline. So it's like at least high risk, high reward, where this is high risk, low reward, right? Yeah, you got it. So this was a little bit more planning side of things. But do you notice that when we're talking about this, it's not a team plan. It's a you plan. It's your individual rotation. So as long as your team is here, oh, by the way, they're not here.
Yeah.
That's something that we saw in Shambali, right? But if you wait for your team to like rotate to like here, and then you get this jump pad here, I mean, you guys got a chance. That would also give you a better angle for your ult too.
I think we do end up pulling this fight, and I don't know how. Was that a good shout there?
Yeah. I mean, you had to, right? You had to. Don't overthink it. There's no hard rule with shot. Remember, it's either to push, pull, or stand still. I don't know, but just get something out of it. When do I need the speed? When do I need the HP? Is there action going on? If the answer is yes, then sure. There's action going on. So, of course.
I chased the brig with it, and it hit nothing.
Well, okay, see, this is the thing. This is the funny thing. this is a good reminder for you. Okay, you've basically for like the last, I don't even know, 10 minutes been basically, this has been lurking in the back of your mind, this ult, at least the way that you've been talking about it. But it's such a stupid thing. Nobody cares. I actually think the idea of this is like pretty reasonable, because if you think about where you ult, I don't know if I want you here, but I really would like you in here, because this would give you so much cover, good angle, all that kind of stuff. So you're not just ulting a target here, you're ulting an angle. You notice that?
And I'm also repositioning with it.
Well, that's it, right? That's exactly what I mean. Like, you're putting yourself in a better position. So if this had hit on Brigitte, this would have been legitimately a perfect ultimate. It's just a small error of timing of when you actually didn't get it. That being said, you're still reaping the rewards from the position that you went to. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
You used ult and you won the fight. So you know what? The fact that it didn't hit anybody just meant that you built your next ult a little bit faster. Okay? Yeah. So the ult was, you know, it happens, but we're all right. Yeah. See, this is what we're doing here. We've got a little angle here off the tank. Probably don't shout here yet, right? Yeah. Just what does this shot provide that just shooting from here doesn't provide? Maybe a tiny bit of proximity. And we certainly use the shout here, but that's at the tail end, right?
Yeah. But yeah. I would have had 5 seconds more of it to pressure this tank more instead of just pressuring the brig.
But nice, Gracie. Nice shots, nice target priority, nice angle, nice use of covered, nice use of carnage. This shout, again, we're not going to talk about shout anymore. We're just not. Good Gracie here. You could go for Mayor Sojourn, but I think Ram is fine as well because he is much closer than they are. That's how we win HP trades. Again, excellent use of Gracie. Not so good a use of Carnage there, obviously. The timing, it was a little awkward. This shout is okay because you are taking action off of it, but I want to see your crosshair go elsewhere. Yeah, you know somebody's close left. You know it. You know it. Let's turn and let's see if I'm right. Ah, baby, come on. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I've noticed sometimes I do have to cognitively think, like, I'm looking at tank way too much. Just look at somebody else.
Only because the tank is, or the backline, excuse me, or the squishies, the DPS, are just as close as the tank, or relatively so. Right? So if we break out the tape measure here, right? Especially with shout, these backliners are just as accessible as this tank.
Yeah, and they're playing very, like, their movement is very predictable for a knife.
You're right. So you need to be prioritizing and pressuring this. And what will happen is the Ram will turn back on you, which then will take heat off of your team and so on. So, okay. Let's take some notes.
Yeah.
JQ, micro, macro. What do you got?
Look for the shorter angles to be able to pressure with my knife instead of looking for long angles for it. With shout, wait till I'm in. Use it to get out or get in, not when I am full HP having no pressure.
I'm going to change that wording because I disagree in one point. It's okay to use it standing still. Remember the Mei earlier when you're 1v1ing the Mei around the corner? It's fine. Just something needs to be happening at that point. You need to be in combat. Using shout in a tank trade is good. Using shout to push, using shout to kite is good. Using shout to stand perfectly still and win a 1v1 with the Zenyatta is good. But there needs to be, I'm seeing too many shouts before any action happens.
And then with Carnage, I need to not like waste. I'm wasting it on like a one target when I don't need it. Like I'm using it before I could have the opportunity to do something more with it.
Okay to win tank trade. Look for angles, opportunities for squishy hits if given. I wouldn't worry as much about Carnage. I think it was mostly okay. Let's focus on the other stuff, which is going to include target priority.
Yeah, target priority. Like if people are close or just as close as the tank, look away from the tank. I think that's...
Does that sound familiar to remember the Orisa first point thing? We were trying to find that angle with which to go and you just couldn't find it. I was like, just win the tank trade so you can get out. It's the same thing with JQ. It's really the same thing with every tank. Even a character like Winston sometimes takes tank trades when diving backline would just be suicide. So you take the tank trade because that tank is overextended a little bit, and then you set up your angle for an engage. It's the same thing with JQ.
Yeah.
Same thing with JQ. Obviously, JQ and Ram and Orisa are way better built for tank trades. But yeah, something to consider. Ults were fine. I think hindsight to say that the Brig one was bad. I think the one that you had where you just ran it down on main, it's because they had like 4 people lined up. Sure, go for it. Knock yourself out. Any questions?
No.
Now, crucially missing from your notes here, and I want you, the reason why I'm not typing this for you is because I want you to put thought into how you want to frame this, is your communication and your fight planning responsibilities. And more importantly, how you're extrapolating that into your actual practice.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, everything is Game 7 finals. Everything is you and only you. Both of those things need to change, not only to free up more thought so that you could practice your micro, but also for a healthier communicational structure.
I need to trust my teammates more.
You need to communicate to your teammates more. And if you want to lead your teammates, give them the responsibilities. Be specific and deliberate. Remember, what are the 2 calls that your teammates need to be making as consistently as possible?
When they ult and what angle they want to take, or
not
where
just,
the angle
not just
they
when,
want to
but
take.
yeah, but when they ult for sure, and just honestly, just how they want to ult, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
like what they want to do with their ultimate, and then make them also call when. So ultimates and what angle, ultimates and positioning, they make those calls. I would go as far to say 95% of the time optimally. When I work with Hadi, sometimes he calls positions with angles like with Way or May, but most of the time it was Backbone and Sparker or whatever calling their angles, and that's still true to this day with pretty much any successful team. So communicate your expectations clearly, allow them to practice it, allow them to make mistakes, allow them to forget, and provide reminders. If you really want to be a leader that says, hey, this is what I need from you guys. Don't forget. That's what it needs to lead. And go work on your own thing.
All right.
Any questions?
No.